Heavy metal detox sounds like a great idea. You read online that mercury, aluminum, lead, or cadmium might be sitting in your tissues, and suddenly you're ordering chlorella, alpha-lipoic acid, or some other chelator that you found in a biohacking forum. But here's the thing, heavy metal detox is not just about pulling stuff out. There's a whole system behind it, and if you skip certain steps or rush the process, you will end up feeling worse than before. So let's walk through the most common mistakes that beginners make when getting into this. Understanding these mistakes will save you all kinds of unnecessary symptoms and will help you actually get results. Mistake number 1 is not understanding ionic mimicry. This is the biggest one by far. Ionic mimicry is a fancy way of saying that toxic metals can look like essential minerals in the body. For example, lead can mimic calcium and be incorporated into your bones. Cadmium can act like zinc, aluminum can sneak in where magnesium should go, and mercury can displace selenium or interfere with sulfur-based enzymes. This whole substitution is called ionic mimicry, and it refers to the ability of toxic metal ions to replace essential mineral ions in your body. This has to do with the metal's chemical structure and how they're very similar to essential minerals. Basically, when you're low in one of these essential minerals, your body can use a toxic metal instead. This can happen at the site of transporters, ion channels, enzymes, or other proteins that would normally use the mineral. Of course, the affected enzymes won't work as well because they were designed to use minerals instead of toxic metals. Ionic mimicry is also why some people accumulate more toxins than others. Their body is low in a mineral, so it grabs onto whatever looks similar. If you then work only on lowering the toxic metals and getting them out of your body without doing anything else, you take away the last thing that your body has and that the enzyme could work with. So in a way, having some heavy metal load was even better than having nothing. This brings me to the second mistake, which is not replenishing the mineral counterparts. This one flows directly from the first mistake. If toxic metals sneak in because they mimic real minerals, then it's obvious that one of your first jobs is to make sure that you're getting enough minerals again. So many people go straight to chelators, binders, and detox supplements, but forget to take care of their basic nutritional needs. If you don't fill up your body's parking spots with the right minerals, then those parking spots will stay wide open. And the heavy metals then are more than happy to move right back in the parking spot even after a detox. Which metal competes with which mineral often depends on the specific situation. But here's a general overview of the most common interactions. Magnesium gets displaced by aluminum, calcium gets displaced by lead, zinc gets displaced by cadmium, selenium gets displaced by mercury, and phosphorus and selenium get displaced by arsenic. To test your individual mineral status and to identify your most pressing deficiencies, I always recommend a hair analysis instead of a blood test, and I will link my favorite one below. This is always step 1 in your detox, because otherwise you're just shooting in the dark or focusing on the wrong things. Okay, mistake number 3 is forcing metals out too fast, and we already kind of talked about this. One of the biggest beginner mistakes is trying to get everything out as soon as possible. Most people read about chelators online, either synthetic ones like DMSA or DMPS, or natural ones like cilantro or alpha-lipoic acid, and then they start using them in very high doses. Please realize that the job of a chelator is to grab onto a metal and then pull it out of your tissue. This sounds great in theory, but if your body's elimination pathways, like your liver, kidney, bile, gut, and even your skin, aren't open and working properly, then those metals get pulled out of the tissue and will just redistribute in other places. Often more sensitive ones, like your brain and nervous system. This is when people start feeling horrible. Headaches, fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, anxiety, insomnia, you name it. These are all classic signs of a detox gone too fast or without proper drainage. Also keep in mind that even though natural chelators are generally more gentle than synthetic ones, which by the way I never recommend unless it's a medical emergency, they too can cause side effects. There are countless reports of people who knocked themselves out because they took too high a dose of a natural chelator that their body couldn't handle. So always remember, detox needs to be done in phases, and you need to prepare for each of the phases. Using chelators should be the last step in your protocol, not your first. This is also a great transition to the last mistake, which is focusing too much on phase 1 and not enough on phase 2 and 3. As you probably know, any good detox happens in 3 phases. Phase 1 is transformation, and here the toxin is mobilized from the tissue and then chemically modified by your liver. Ironically, these new forms are often more reactive and more harmful than the original toxin. In phase 2, called conjugation, the liver takes those reactive unstable toxins and then binds them to something else, like sulfur, glycine, or glutathione. This makes sure that they're water-soluble and less dangerous. And in phase 3, the toxin gets shuttled out of the liver and into your bile or urine, so you either poop it out or you pee it out. A lot of detox supplements and detox protocols out there focus only on phase 1, so getting toxins out of storage and then transforming them in the liver. But when your body doesn't have the nutrients necessary for phase 2 and phase 3, that's like stirring up all the dirt in your house but not having a vacuum or a mop to clean it up afterwards. By the way, this doesn't just apply to heavy metal detox, but all kinds of detox protocols, be it for plastics, estrogen, or any other toxin. If your drainage pathways aren't working, so if you're constipated, not sweating, not peeing much, or your liver and lymph are sluggish, then all you're doing is making the problem worse. That's why a good detox program always starts with supporting your body's ability to get rid of waste and not just stir it up. Before I end this video, let me quickly show you what a good heavy metal detox program would look like. Here's a quick rundown of what you would go through. First, you test your nutrient levels, ideally with a hair analysis, and then start replenishing mineral reserves. Then you open up the drainage pathways, so you fix constipation, support bile flow, and lymph movement. Then you support phase 2, which happens mostly through amino acids that your body can use to bind to the reactive intermediates. And only then do you ramp up phase 1 by gently mobilizing metals through things like B vitamins, high-dose minerals, and maybe some appropriate chelators. I will link videos below that explain all of these steps in more detail. And if you want a step-by-step protocol that walks you through everything, definitely check out my program. Please understand that heavy metal detox isn't something that you do overnight. It has to be planned and done right. Then it can definitely reduce your toxic load, clear up symptoms, and support long-term health. But you want to make sure that you get the basics right and understand what you're doing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad advice out there, usually from people who understand the problem but are overly simplistic in their solution. I hope this video helped you understand that you need to support your body correctly and stop forcing things, and only then will you feel better and see results.